Unsolved Mysteries. The Borden case is undoubtedly without parallel in the criminal annals of America. It is perhaps the most puzzling murder which has occurred anywhere in the whole world. The perpetrator of this double murder was saved from the gallows by a most extraordinary chain of circumstances. Circumstances which perhaps would not recur in 1,000 years. The Borden place in Fall River, Massachusetts, was a house of silences. A house of moody, brooding silences brought about by pent-up hatreds, petty jealousies, niggardly dealings in money matters, and two daughters who hated their stepmother. A stepmother who hated with equal intensity her two stepdaughters. Even from the outside, the Borden house, where it stood on South Main Street, had about it an air of ineffable doom. The atmosphere of a place accursed. It is exactly 30 seconds before 11 o'clock on the morning of August the 4th. Bridget, the maid, finished with her morning duties, is resting in her room on the 3rd story. Mr. Borden is lying on the couch in the living room. Emma Borden is away from home. And Lizzie Borden, is standing on the back porch.
Bridget, come here.
What's the matter, Miss Lizzie?
Come down quick. Father's dead. Somebody came in and killed him. Don't go in, Bridget. Don't go in. Get a doctor. Run across the street and get Dr. Bowen.
Is there anything wrong, Lizzie?
Oh, Mrs. Churchill, someone has killed Father. Please come over.
I'll be over right away. The doctor isn't home. I left word for him to come. Miss Lizzie, where were you when this happened?
I was out in the yard. I heard a groan. The screen door was wide open. I came in.
Lizzie, where is your father?
In the living room.
Where were you, Lizzie, when it happened?
I went to the barn to get a piece of iron.
Where is your mother?
I don't know. She had a note to go see someone who was sick. It must have been in town, but I thought I heard her come in. I don't know but what she may have been killed, too. Father must have an enemy.
What's all this, Lizzie? What's it I hear about your father?
It's Dr. Bowen, and he has Officer Allen with him.
Oh, Doctor, in the living room.
All right. Now stand back. Come on, Doctor. No need to examine him to see whether or not he's dead. Get me a sheet, somebody. How long has he been dead, Doc? About 10 minutes. Still warm. Lizzie.
Yes, Doctor.
Where were you when this happened?
I was over at the barn.
Where were you, Bridget?
In my room, upstairs.
Did you hear anything?
No.
Were you asleep?
No. I've just been lying down for a few seconds.
Now listen, nobody could have killed this man the way he's been killed without making some noise. No signs of any weapon either, officer. Let me see your hands, Bridget. That's it. Turn around. Oh, nothing there. You, Miss Lizzie. Let me see your hands.
Me?
Yes, you. Whoever killed this man must have left some traces. And you were the only two people in the house.
There's no signs of blood on Lizzie. Not even inside her body. I've looked.
Bridget, you go upstairs and see if Mother's come in.
Not alone, Miss Lizzie. I'm not going up those stairs alone. I'll go with you. Oh, Doctor Lizzie. Oh.
That's Mrs. Borden?
Yes. I knew something like this would happen.
What? Why?
I just did. That's all.
Alan. Yes, Doctor? Mrs. Borden's been dead anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours. And he's been dead only a few minutes. Yes. Well, every one of you stay where you are. I'm going to search for the weapon.
But neither Officer Allen nor any other of the many members of the police force ever found the weapon. Mrs. Churchill, from her window across the driveway, saw no one enter or leave the house. Mrs. Borden, the murdered woman, weighed nearly 200 pounds, Yet no one heard a sound when the murderer felled her. Not a sound, not a cry, not a clue, but suspicions. Yes. Lizzie Borden lay in prison, staring at the whitewashed ceiling, hearing again and again the same words. Different voices, but always the same words.
Where were you, Lizzie Borden, when this happened?
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 Where were you, Lizzie Borden, when this happened? Where were you, Lizzie Borden, when this happened?
The Superior Court of New Bedford on this day, June the 20th, now in session. Chief Justice Albert Mason presiding. All stand while the justice takes his seat.
Mr. Robinson, you may begin your closing appeal to the jury.
Gentlemen of the jury, you have heard the witnesses describe the sitting room in which Mr. Borden was killed. Of the walls, the ceiling were splattered with blood. Now, gentlemen of the jury, almost 2 hours elapsed between the murders. At no time was Miss Lizzie Borden out of the sight of Bridget the maid or Mr. Borden before his death for a period of more than 20 minutes. How could she cleanse herself of bloodstains in that length of time? I repeat, how could she cleanse herself of bloodstains in that length of time? She could not. Now remember that according to the state, Lizzie Borden must have killed her stepmother about 9:30, got rid of the weapon, cleansed herself, and appeared before Bridget the maid before 9:45. Again, she had between 10:45 and 11 o'clock in which to kill Mr. Borden, again dispose of the weapon, and again cleanse herself of bloodstains. Impossible, gentlemen of the jury, impossible. Within 15 minutes of Mr. Borden's death, Lizzie Borden was examined by Mrs. Churchill, who stated that there were no bloodstains on Lizzie Borden's person, not even inside her bodice. I have finished. I ask that you think carefully and seriously upon the evidence presented when you return your verdict.
The district attorney may address the jury.
Gentlemen of the jury, the defense contend that Lizzie Borden did not have time to cleanse herself after killing her stepmother. Now, that is something that no one can say. The medical testimony cannot and does not specify the exact moment at which Mrs. Borden was struck down. And Lizzie Borden may have had ample time in which to rid herself of the telltale bloodstains. In regard to the killing of Mr. Borden, I admit the difficulty. I cannot answer it. You cannot answer it. But, gentlemen of the jury, Lizzie Borden was the only person who could have committed the double murder.
And so I say to you, gentlemen of the jury, as presiding judge in this case, that if the state have not proved their case, then you must find for the prisoner and return a verdict so. You may retire to consider your verdict.
While the jury retire to consider their verdict, consider the case. It is not easy to remove bloodstains. Bloodstains can be removed more or less easily from the smooth skin of the face, but from the hands, no. Remember, too, that there was no bathtub in the Borden home. Do not lose sight of the fact that no weapon was found. No burned clothes were found, and the murderer must have been literally saturated with the victim's blood. Consider, too, that at any moment Bridget, the maid, or Mr. Borden could have walked upstairs and discovered the murderer killing Mrs. Borden. The jury have been out almost an hour. It is 4:30, and they file to their places in the jury box.
Are the gentlemen of the jury agreed upon a verdict?
We are, Your Honor.
Lizzie Borden, stand up. Face the jury.
We, the jury, find the prisoner not guilty.
A careful reading without emotion or favor of the trial transcript must convince any unprejudiced person that Lizzie Borden did not commit the double murder. Since this is an unsolved mystery, any solution is necessarily a supposition based, however, upon the known facts. A possible solution will be presented after you have heard from your sponsor. On 2 occasions previous to the Borden murders, the Borden home had been robbed of jewelry and money. Stray tramps had probably perpetrated the robberies, and remember that these gentlemen of the highway leave secret markings on walls and houses informing their brothers of the road that these houses are easy to rob, or perhaps a mark that tells that the householder is kindly and that food will be forthcoming. It is the morning of the murder.
Lizzie. Lizzie?
Yes, Mother?
I'm going to town to visit a friend who isn't feeling well.
Now, Mother?
I'm going to my room to dress first. Have Bridget wash the windows.
Yes, Mother. Bridget. Oh, Bridget.
Yes, Miss Lizzie?
I'm going to do some ironing. Will you wash the windows?
Yes, Miss Lizzie. I've got the water and everything ready now. I'm going right outside.
Both for the irons won't be hot for quite a spell. I'll go to the barn and get the lead to make these sinkers for my fishing line.
A tramp hidden in the basement since early morning makes his way into the house. This is his opportunity for petty theft. The house is empty, he thinks. In the upper room, he comes face to face with Mrs. Borden. He silences her unuttered cry with a blow. Panic seizes him and he turns to flee. Escape is impossible. Lizzie Borden has returned from the barn, and tremblingly the murderer hides in the same room where his victim lies dead.
Here's your father, Miss Lizzie. I'm going up to my room for a few minutes.
Very well, Bridget. Oh, hello, Father.
Oh, hello, Lizzie.
Any mail for me, Father?
Well, not the same, Lizzie. I'm tired. I think I'll lie down for a bit on the sofa.
No, all right. I'm going out to the barn for a piece of iron.
The murderer, still hidden in the upper room, hears the door slam. He creeps downstairs to the living room, sees Mr. Borden on the sofa, and thinking he's asleep, tries to creep past him. Borden looks up, sees the blood-stained figure, but like Mrs. Borden, he is silenced with a blow before he can say a word. The back door creaks. Lizzie is returning. In a moment, the hue and cry will be raised. The murderer's only chance is to hide in the basement and wait for an opportune moment to escape. And so Fall River had an unsolved mystery. For the police, despite a statement that a murderer could have entered the house through the basement, didn't even look in the basement till the next day. And the murderer had, of course, made his escape in the dark of the previous night. Unsolved Mysteries. Out of deference to people who may still be living, character names in some of these unsolved mysteries have been changed. No tale from beyond the frontier of mysterious Tibet or from the depths of dark Africa is more weird than tonight's unsolved mystery, laid in California. A mystery which, for downright eeriness, rivals the imaginative writings of an Arthur Conan Doyle. The scene is a famous war correspondent's home in Hollywood, California. A group of guests, seated comfortably on the wide veranda, watch the twinkling lights of the film colony. And every so often the stabbing finger of a giant searchlight cuts the deep blue of the sky and loses itself in the unfathomable spaces beyond. A prominent motion picture director sweeps his arm over the scene as he turns from the veranda rail to face the group.
Oh, I know everything's swell in Hollywood, but sometimes I'd like to get away from it all. Go someplace to rest where no one would ask any questions and where I could be alone.
And where no one would say yes.
Yes, instead of being asked questions and telling people what to do, I'd like to ask a few questions myself.
But would you like having someone tell you what to do? You've been an important director for a long time now. Taking orders from someone else might not be so easy.
Well, I'd like to try it. Yeah, it's getting late. I guess we ought to be letting you get to bed, Bill.
Oh, don't mind me. After all, I can get up when I like. I don't have to be on the lot at dawn.
But we really ought to be going. Come on, Bob.
I'll get you a wrap.
Wait behind a minute when the others are gone, Val.
Righto.
Good night, Bill. As always, we've had a swell of time.
Good night.
Good night, Bill. Good night, Val.
Sit down, Val.
Oh, why so serious, Bill?
I want to talk to you.
Yes?
Listen, old man, if you don't let up, you're going to crack. You can't go on the way you've been doing, working almost night and day, turning out super colossals. Oh, I'm not being sarcastic. Everybody knows that you're the director. But even genius must have a rest.
Yes, Bill, you're right, but
Wait. You said a few moments ago that you'd like to go somewhere where you'd do the questioning, where you'd be ordered about.
And I mean it. I wasn't just talking.
Well, I'll tell you where to go, but you must make me a promise.
Yes? I'll promise.
When I've told you, you must go. And you must go with no idea of personal profit or gain. No idea of using what you may find for picture material. Else, I don't know what might happen to you.
I promise.
Several years ago, I read a book called A Dweller on Two Planets. The man who did the physical writing claimed that one whom he called the master stood by his shoulder and dictated the entire book. I checked into the thing and found that the author was only a young boy at the time the work was done. He would have hardly had the necessary experience to write such a book. So I investigated further.
I've read the book, written by Philos.
Yes. Well, I also saw an article printed in a prominent metropolitan daily. The writer had gone to the slopes of Mount Shasta and had discovered there the same type of people that Philos had written of in his Dweller on Two Planets.
Seems to me that I read something in the Times about strange, unaccountable lights being seen from the region of Mount Shasta.
Right. And so, all in all, and being a newspaper man and of an inquisitive turn of mind, I went there.
You did?
Yes. I got to Dunsmuir in Northern California about 10 in the morning. Soon after, began making my way towards the slopes of Mount Shasta. I had a strange feeling, a feeling of expectancy. There was a deep silence, except for the singing of birds and the sound of a waterfall. I'd been sitting on a rock. Oh, I don't know how long, when...
My son, do you seek knowledge?
What? Why, where are you?
At your side.
Oh, now I see you. What was that you said?
It is of no matter. You are a newspaper man?
Yes, I am.
But you would also seek the truth?
Well, to be quite frank, I read quite a bit about the masters of Mount Shasta, and I wanted to find out for myself.
That was known to us. I have come here to speak with you.
Yes?
Certain things will be disclosed to you, but you must not use these disclosures in your newspaper work. For the benefit of mankind, you may use them, but for profit, no. It is a testament between us?
Yes, I swear it.
We go now to the temple.
Temple? What temple?
The temple of enlightenment. It is before you.
But there is no temple. There was no temple. I can't believe my eyes. There it is, all gleaming white.
Come, my son. My son, many things cannot be explained. You would have to stay among us for many years.
But at least tell me this. Who are you, and where did you come from?
We have been here always.
But why don't other people see you?
Other people do see us, my son. The visitors, the vacationists to the mountains see us. But to each is disclosed only what he wishes to see. To the tourist looking for the barefoot hermit, I am the barefoot hermit. To him who looks for a man grown old among the mountains, that is what I am. To the seeker after truth, I am a guide, the servant of the master.
But that still doesn't tell me who you are.
Some foolish ones think that we are descendants of the lost tribes of Atlantis. We were before Atlantis was.
You mean That you're centuries old? That you never die?
Death, my son, is but an illusion. Your friends in Hollywood who cannot see you, to them, you might as well be dead.
But they know I'm not. They know I'm away on a trip.
And should you decide to forsake the world and stay with us, what then would your friends think?
They'd think, well, that I'd suffered a lapse of memory or something.
And should the years pass and still you did not return, they would then think you dead. But you would not be. You would be with us.
I see what you mean. Things are comparative, aren't they?
Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, they are one in infinity. In the great scheme of things, they are not separable. Look, if you would understand more clearly, look in the pool.
In the pool?
Yes, at your feet.
Well, I'll be. My house. And Val sitting there on the veranda. He's talking to someone. But there's no one there.
He is talking to you, my son.
But I'm here.
But he believes that you are there.
Oh, I see now. Yes, I'm there. And the friends of the other evening, the night I made up my mind to come here.
But a bare moon pass.
If you can do that, let me see into the future.
No, my son.
I'm not afraid.
No, I have spoken. Come, there is much to see.
It's impossible to tell you of everything I saw and was told while I was there. Time meant nothing. What I'd left behind me in Hollywood meant nothing. I remember sitting thinking, and then looking up to find myself seated on the same rock I'd been sitting on that day the master first spoke to me.
Oh, you awoke to find yourself seated at the same spot.
Awoke? What do you mean?
Well, wasn't the whole thing a dream brought on by what you had anticipated?
That's what I thought at first. An extraordinarily vivid and realistic dream. But when I returned to the hotel, a few surprises awaited me.
Yes?
In the first place, I found that I'd been gone 90 days.
What?
The hotel people told me that I'd returned to the hotel, paid my room for 90 days, and told them I was going away for a time.
Was that when you sent me word that you wouldn't be back in town as early as you expected?
I never sent you any word.
But, Bill, you sent telegrams to Watkins, to Ruth, to Simpkins, and me.
You mean that you all received telegrams, but I didn't send them?
But that's impossible, man. Fantastic.
Perhaps. But you go to Shasta or to Dunsmuir and look at the telegraph company's files. You won't find any originals there. And here, let me show you something.
What?
This check. Look at it. It's the check the hotel people said that I gave them.
It looks all right to me. Your signature all right.
Did you ever see ink as black as that?
Well, no,
Hold the check up to the light. Can you detect any signs of the scratch of a pen?
No, I admit
that check, Val, was never taken from my checkbook. I didn't write it. It's a sample of the master's powers of materialization.
But there must be some explanation.
Yes, I think there is, and I'll try to give it to you.
In just a moment, you will hear a solution to the Mount Shasta mystery. Ladies and gentlemen, inasmuch as any solution must of necessity be supposition, liberties of time, place, and characters have been taken in this solution for which you have been waiting. Well, Bill, what about that explanation?
In the first place, do you think it's possible to think of the impossible?
Let me see if I follow you. Can I imagine the impossible? No, I don't believe I can. The very fact that I can think of something makes that something possible.
If you believe in the power of mind over matter...
Well, as far as I'm concerned, mind is all-powerful.
Now let's look at biology for an instant. Every so often, a specimen is found that is a definite link between some animal alive today and some other animal that's been extinct for centuries.
I see your drift. You mean that these people are a link between us and some long-dead people who possess powers we don't know how to use?
Yes. If you read Colonel Churchward's book on Mu, you will find logical arguments in favor of the theory that the Lemurians migrated to the North American continent.
And that some of them landed to the south and became the ancient Mayas.
Right. And the ancient Mayas certainly had something that we don't possess, as did the ancient Egyptians.
Yes, we're all too inclined to think of America as a land inhabited by nothing but warlike Indians before it was settled.
Only the other day, a skeleton was found near the La Brea pits in Los Angeles, and scientists are agreed that it's not less than 15,000 years old. So isn't it possible that descendants of these ancient peoples still live in isolated parts of the country?
And not liking our modern civilization, they simply withdraw from it?
That's it. After my experience, you can hardly blame me for believing that a strange people do live on the slopes of Mount Shasta.
Unsolved Mysteries. Out of deference to people who may still be living, character names in some of these true unsolved mysteries have been changed. I could a tale unfold whose lightest word would harrow up thy soul, freeze thy young blood, make thy two eyes like stars start from their spheres, thy knotted and combined locks to part and each particular hair to stand on end. So spoke the ghost of Hamlet's father, but the words might well have been applied to the horror of Benedebele. The scene is the heart of darkest Africa, a tiny nameless village not far from Benedebele. The village but a small clearing fighting off the ever-engulfing jungle. The jungle, dark, mysterious, full of fearful sounds and fuller yet of fearsome shadows. Overhead, the sky is lost beyond the locked and twisted branches of tall trees, and below, the black of night is pierced by the kill call of the lion, the sharp hysterical laugh of the hyena, the shuddering whimpering of a group of natives shivering about the campfire. Three white men, their rifles across their knees, stare out into the surrounding blackness.
If you want to know what I think you fellas are batty. You've been out here too long. You've let a lot of native gossip get under your hide. Now, wait a minute, Jack. I haven't seen this thing.
The natives who have seen it say it's a black leopard. I've only seen its tracks, and they're enormous, bigger than any lion spoor I've ever seen. I set a trap for the brute last night. It didn't go off, and this morning I went to take a look at it. It had been set off by hand.
One of the natives probably set it off.
Do you think any one of the natives would come out here after dark with almost a dozen of their brothers lying back there mangled so that you can't tell they were ever human beings? Not on your life.
Irrespective of what it is, we've got to kill it. Or the natives will pack up and leave the village. You can't convince them that it is no Macabre, the witch doctor.
But it's so silly. The idea that just because they expelled the witch doctor, that he should turn himself into a black leopard and come back to kill them one by one. Why, it's silly.
Maybe it is silly. But look at it from their standpoint. Old Macabre, who's 70 if he's a day, wants to marry the village belle. Casts a spell on her. In a week, she's dead.
Jack will say that's coincidence.
Yes, because he hasn't been out here as long as we have. In any case, the villagers drive old Macabre out of the village. He curses them and the village and tells them that he'll return in the form of a wild beast and kill them one by one.
And the next night, one of them is mauled by a black panther. And the night after that, and after that, and after that, till 10 of them have been killed. Laugh that off, will you?
Coincidence.
Listen, I'm willing to accept 1 or 2 as coincidence, but 10, that's different.
Why not 10? If the brute's got a taste for human flesh, why not the whole village? If he's a man-eating panther.
There's a subtle distinction between a panther and a leopard. Leopards are not man-eaters.
And why only the men? Since even a wild animal knows that the women are easier to get.
You're jittery, that's all. What's that?
You're not jittery, are you? Well, that's probably a wild parrot.
That's a parrot? Rot.
Then you name it. Go on. You've heard it twice. Name it.
Well, I can't. I never heard anything like it.
Buona.
Yes, Nietzsche?
He come. That Macabre. You hear him? Macabre give witch doctor call of death.
That scream we heard was the witch doctor?
You heard what Nietzsche said.
Come on. Time we're getting away from fire.
Yes, Nietzsche.
Yes, Buona.
Well, boy, who afraid, follow me. Lie quiet by fire. No move, no speak. Only lie quiet.
Yes, Buona. May tell him, number 1.
All right, fellows, follow me. We'll get on to the trail.
Forcing their way through the dense underbrush, the 3 white men, followed closely by their gun bearers, worked their way to the animal trail. The jungle has become strangely still at the horrifying shrieks of the witch doctor, almost as though brute beasts though they were, they voiced silent disapproval of anything so brutish. The party pushes on, their general direction toward Benedebele. Suddenly, holding up his hand for silence, Frank stops. Then points to a yawning black hole in the already black jungle. A pair of gleaming eyes, a streak of glistening white below, the foam-flecked jaws of a maddened animal.
Take careful aim. You, Bill, after me, and you, Jack, take the brute if he leaps to the right.
Right, okay.
Again.
It's gone. And I know I
So
hit
did I. Come on, let's hurry.
Look here, the tracks.
Come here, quick.
What is it?
We did hit it, look.
Somebody's shot took effect. Why, that shot part of its jaw away.
Buona.
Come on, it's at the village.
Even the beasts know there's something not quite right.
Beats me how the brute can run at all. It must be more than half dead. If it gets into the compound, we'll have no difficulty finding it.
We'll be at the compound in a moment.
Buona.
Yes, Nietzsche?
Here, Buona. Here he's trying again.
My gosh, he's right. Look, headed this way.
What on earth does a half-dead animal want to come this way for? It has to cross the whole length of the compound before it can reach jungle again.
Take it easy now, fellows. We're at the end of the trail.
Bleeding pretty badly now. The spore's soaking.
All right. I'll go first. And no foolhardiness. No hasty shooting.
Frank, look. The trail leads right to your bungalow.
I know it. Stand back. I'm going first.
It went into the living room. Look out when you go through the opening.
This is the...
Jack stops dead. His eyes start from his head. The bloody paw marks cross the bare wood floor and end before a huge oak chest. He points and stutters.
But
It isn't here. Yes, it is. Got your .45 ready, Bill? Yes. Stand on the left side of the chest. You, Jack, in front. I'll open it.
On tiptoe and in silence, the three men take their places. The native boys crouch in the open doorway. Taking his .45 in his left hand, Frank slowly opens the heavy lid of the chest. A gasp of horror escapes them. Incredulously, Jack leans farther forward and stares into the chest. Sprawled like some nightmarish monster, half his jaw shot away, lies Macabre, the witch doctor, the horror of Venedebile, dead. In just a moment, you will hear a solution to the mystery of the horror of Venedebile. Ladies and gentlemen, inasmuch as any solution must of necessity be supposition, liberties of time, place, and character have been taken with the solution for which you have been waiting. The scene is Frank Hilton's bungalow 1 hour later. The natives have disposed of the horror, and the three white men are seated at the table while Nietzsche, the native boy, serves them something to steady their nerves.
Well, Jack, what have you to say now?
Nothing. I want to forget it.
You won't. Not as long as you live.
But it's impossible. I expect to wake up any minute and find it's all a nightmare.
Yes, and every time you think of it, you'll do the same thing.
In spite of the fact that I was here, I still don't believe it.
Oh, it's true, all right. This isn't my first experience with one of the things. No, and not Bill's either. You'll get used to it if you live here long enough.
Not me. I'll take my chances elsewhere. What would you call it?
Never mind what I call it. Science calls it lycanthropy.
Science? Does science recognize what we just saw?
Yes. Lycanthropy is, first in folklore, the liability of a person to turn into an animal, and secondly in pathology, the belief of a person that he or she is some sort of an animal.
Sort of insanity?
Yes. The idea is this, that the person who, through mental maladjustment, begins to think like an animal will, when removed from the company of human beings, actually turn into an animal.
But it's impossible. Humanly impossible. Biologically impossible.
Here, take a look at this.
The Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yes, I had it copied.
As a pathological state, it is characterized by the patient's belief that he has been metamorphosed into an animal and is often accompanied by craving for strange articles of food, including the flesh of human beings or corpses. But when he leaves the neighborhood of a man, real metamorphosis may be asserted.
Pleasant sort of idea, isn't it?
It's ghastly.
The common name is werewolves, but wolves are by no means the only animal. The Britannica states further. In Java, we meet with the were-tiger. In South America, the were-jaguar. In Abyssinia, generally a woman and in the form of hyena or leopard.
And this is the world in which we live.
Yes. Shakespeare expressed it admirably when he wrote, "There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamed of in our philosophy."
stay where you are. Do not break the stillness of this moment. For this is a time of mystery. A time when imagination is free and moves forward swiftly, silently. This is the Haunting Hour. The people in the house. All houses have their secrets. And the house on East 67th Street in New York was no exception. Its rooms had seen the births and deaths of 7 generations of Thatchers. And now they look down with despair upon the 3 people living within its walls. Evans Thatcher III, his son Kendall, Kendall's lovely wife Margaret. For evil and hatred stalked the rooms and took you by the throat when you entered the house. It was polite and hidden, but sinister. And present so strongly that you felt you could reach out and touch it.
Margaret, come in, my dear. I've been waiting for you.
Oh, I didn't know you were home.
Aren't you forgetting something, my dear?
I didn't know you were home, Father.
That's much better, Margaret. I only ask that you behave as any daughter should to a father-in-law.
Where's Kendall, Father?
My dear, Kendall is only my son, but he's your husband. I'm surprised you should ask me his whereabouts. Most wives of my acquaintance are...
All right, Kendall isn't home. Let's stop acting.
My dear child, I've never acted with you. It is you who pretends to like me. I take little pains to conceal my dislike of you.
I hate you. I hate you more than I believed I could ever hate another human being. And if it weren't for Kendall...
Why don't you divorce Kendall, my dear? I'd gladly pay for it. Kendall isn't the proper husband for you. You should have married a strong young detective. There was a suitable match for you. By the way, what was his name?
Walters. Larry Walters.
Oh, yes.
I remember the name perfectly. Father. And I didn't marry him because I was in love with Kendall.
Oh, come now, my dear. We both know the truth. You could hardly marry a representative of law and order if you told him the truth about yourself. But after tonight, why, I imagine that difficulty should be solved.
Oh, you're completely vile. But there's one thing you've never understood. A mind like yours can't understand it. I love Kendall more than I hate you. And I'm not going to leave him alone with you so that you can ruin him completely.
Too bad that you can't afford to move out of my house into an apartment of your own, isn't it? I'm sure that if Kendall could get a job and support you, you'd be deliriously happy.
Yes, I would. But you've taken good care to see that Kendall is too weak to go out in the world, haven't you?
Now, my dear Margaret...
Don't think I don't know what you're doing. You've hated Kendall since the day he was born and deliberately set out to ruin him by giving him everything he wanted. You've made Kendall so completely dependent upon you that he's afraid to leave. You've pampered him so that he's fit for nothing.
You're insane.
No, I'm not. I'm perfectly sane. I'm willing to stay here and fight you till I've made a man out of Kendall. We both walk out of this house together with our heads up.
And I'll see you both dead and rotting first. Oh, good evening, Kendall. Did you take my message to the club?
Yes, Father. Mr. Ainsley said there was no reply.
Oh?
Hello, Margaret.
Hello, darling. Well, aren't you even going to kiss me? I haven't seen you since this morning.
You bet I am.
Nonsense, Kendall. Stop acting as if you were a newlywed instead of behaving like a man who's been married a whole year.
Well, my mother and father were married 22 years, and he kissed her every night when he came home.
There. You see, Father, kissing your wife.
Kendall, come along upstairs. I want to talk to you. My dear Margaret, you'd better change. We're dining with some friends of mine.
But Kendall and I had planned to eat home tonight, Father.
Did you? I didn't. I don't very well see how you can. I left instructions that there was to be no marketing today and gave the servants the night off. Are you coming, Kendall?
Yes, Father. I'll see you later, Margaret.
I hate you, Evans Thatcher. I hate you. I wish you were dead.
Hello?
Larry, is that you?
Margaret, what is it? What's the matter?
Larry, I've got to see you.
Foolish child.
I must have a wrong number.
No, you haven't, Margaret. You're in trouble. I'll be right over.
No, you mustn't. You mustn't. Goodbye.
Well, are we all ready? Margaret, you look beautiful in that dress.
I'm afraid that the dress will have to go back, Kendall.
But, Father, why? You said yourself...
I changed my mind. I will not pay for it.
I don't want you to pay for it. I didn't ask you to buy it. Oh, Kendall. Kendall, can't you see what he's doing to us? I don't want him to pay for anything of mine ever. Kendall, please. Please, let's get out of this house now.
Margaret is hysterical, Kendall. She doesn't know what she's saying. She's just done something very stupid and childish, for which I'm afraid I must punish you, Kendall.
No, I'm not going to stand by and see this again. You're not
Come
going
here,
to...
Kendall.
I'm sorry, Father, really, I'm sorry. I mean it. I'll never do it again.
It's a little late for that, my dear. Come here, Kendall.
You can have the telephone taken out, I promise. Please don't hit Kendall. Oh, please.
Mr. Thatcher?
Oh, come in, Mr. Walters. It was thoughtful of you to telephone, let me know you were coming. It enabled me to open the door myself. I don't like to let the servants know that I have detectives calling on me.
Oh. You don't like detectives, Mr. Thatcher?
Not in my house. As a matter of fact, though, I've been expecting a call from you for a few days now, ever since Margaret was so foolish as to telephone you the other night.
As a matter of fact, Mr. Thatcher, that's just the reason for my visit. Margaret didn't sound at all well to me.
Very observant of you, Mr. Walters. Margaret isn't well. She's a neurotic.
That's funny. When I knew her, she was a perfectly healthy young lady.
Perhaps. But now she's definitely neurotic.
Then, of course, you've put her under the care of a physician.
I dislike your attitude very much. Are you implying that my son and I aren't treating Margaret properly? Because if you are, you can get out now. Actually, you have no right in this house. I received you because I wanted to show you that there was no reason for Margaret's call to you the other night. Now I shall let you see Margaret. You can hear from her own lips what I've been telling you.
Yeah, I'd like to see her.
If you'll excuse me, I'll go up and bring her down myself.
Thanks.
I won't offer you a drink. However, the radio is over there if you wish to turn it on. It may help you pass the time.
We interrupt this program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin. Dandy Jim Carey broke out of the death house a little over 4 hours ago.
Holy mackerel.
With only 2 days before his execution, Dandy Jim became the first prisoner ever to escape from the death house. The police have thrown a dragnet all over the country and promise a speedy arrest. Keep tuned to this station for further details.
Here he is, Margaret. Please tell him how you feel.
Hello, Margaret.
Hello, Larry. I don't know what was the matter with me. I was just upset and nervous. That's why I called you, Larry.
Yeah, that's what Mr. Thatcher told me.
Now, look here, Walters. I've stood for a lot from you because you were a friend of Margaret's. But I'm telling you, I'm not going to stand for any more insinuations. It won't do either Margaret or Kendall any good at all. Remember that, Margaret.
I'm not insinuating anything, Mr. Thatcher, but I'm not a fool. I know darn well that Margaret called me for some reason, and I don't believe a word of what you're saying.
All right. You've succeeded in making me do something that's very painful both to me and Margaret.
Please go, Larry. Please. I don't need your help. I don't want it.
Don't worry, Margaret. I promise you that this won't affect Kendall at all. Now, Mr. Walters, here are the facts. Margaret's made a very good marriage.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly. Exactly. A girl in Margaret's position has no right to expect to marry my son. You see, Mr. Walters, my son was brought up with everything in the world he wanted. His for the asking. Margaret, on the other hand, had a much different life. Much different.
You mean that she wasn't spoiled?
That and other things. If I did spoil Kendall, Mr. Walters, it's only natural. When a child's mother dies at the birth of a child, and a man has to be both father and mother, his son is apt to be indulged.
Or hated.
Have you ever heard of Dandy Jim Carey, Mr. Walters?
Yeah, of course.
He's in the death house now, awaiting execution. You didn't know that he was Margaret's brother, did you?
Oh.
You see what your insinuations have made me do, Mr. Walters.
Uh-huh. I see. But it may interest you to know that Dandy Jim escaped from the death house 4 hours ago. What?
Thank heaven.
I think that's your phone.
I'll answer it.
I wouldn't dream of it, my dear. I'll go.
Margaret, why didn't you tell me? I can see you're in a jam. Let me help.
I can't, Larry. Just leave me alone. It's best that way.
Hello?
Believe me.
Hello. Hello, answer there.
But, Margaret, I only want to help. Believe me.
Evidently a wrong number.
Yeah. You seem to have a lot of them around this house.
And now, Mr. Walters, I think there's nothing more for us to say to each other, so...
Good night. If you want me, Margaret.
She'll know where to reach you. Good night, Mr. Walters. And now, my dear, we'll wait for the telephone to ring again. Only this time, when Mr. Walters isn't here, you will answer.
No. No, I won't.
I think you will. Won't you, my dear? I think you will. Won't you, my dear?
Where's Kendall? I want Kendall.
Kendall won't help you. He never will.
Stop it! Stop!
Certainly. All you have to do is to pick up the telephone and say what I tell you. Well, you wouldn't want to disappoint your brother, would you? He desperately wants to get in touch with you.
All right.
And so the drama that was touching the lives of the people in the house on East 67th Street came swiftly to its violent conclusion. Evans Thatcher III was determined to dominate and rule his son Kendall at all costs. Hating his son from the day he was born, bringing him up a weakling by pampering him, he resented Kendall's marriage to Margaret Carey, a beautiful and strong-willed girl who was determined to break Evans Thatcher's hold over his son. Only Margaret had a brother, Dandy Jim Carey, who had escaped from the death house, and is even now trying to get in touch with her, while she sits on a bench in Central Park waiting anxiously for Kendall.
Oh, Margaret, I'm sorry I'm late. I tried to get away, but Father...
I know, darling. Sit down here right next to me on the bench. Oh, the park's beautiful at night, isn't it, Kendall?
Gee, I look forward so much to sitting here quietly with you. It's the only time in the whole day that I'm happy.
Do you think that's right, Kendall, darling?
Huh? What do you mean?
Well, that two people so much in love and married should live, be only happy when they can sneak away from the house they live in to sit in the park and hold hands.
Oh, Margaret. I know. I'm no good. Why don't you leave me?
Oh, stop saying that, Kendall. Don't you realize that's just what your father wants?
I know, but there is just nothing I can do about it.
But there is. You're going to have to make a decision, my darling. You're going to have to come away with me.
I want to. So much. But I'm scared. We'll starve, Margaret.
Well, we won't. I tell you, we won't.
It's hopeless. Do you think that I could stand watching you work and support me?
You wouldn't have to. You could go to work.
I want to. But you know what happened when we tried it once before. Father saw to it that no one would hire me. And if I did get a job, he had me fired.
Well, we made a mistake. We'll have to leave New York.
Where will we go?
What difference does it make? We'll be together and we'll be happy.
But you won't have anything. I don't care so much for myself, but I couldn't stand it for you.
That's not true, Kendall.
Do you mean I'm lying? You mean that I really don't want to go with you?
I mean that you're afraid to face the facts. You have no reason to be afraid for me. I wasn't wealthy before I married you, and I wasn't unhappy. I am now. I won't be because I love you very much if we go away together. I don't care how little we have as long as we're people, living together, supporting ourselves and away from your father.
Margaret, I will. We'll go away. We'll never see my father again.
Oh, Kendall. Kendall, darling. Oh, when will we go, Kendall? Tomorrow?
No, we'll have to make plans.
Why? Your mind is made up, isn't it?
Of course it is, but we can't just pack up and go like that.
Why not?
Well, there are things to do. We have to find a place to go, get the tickets.
We'll go down to the station and get on a train. What difference does it make where we go?
But we can't rush. Maybe...
Oh. All right, Kendall. I have an appointment now.
With whom?
Your father and my brother. I don't suppose you want to come with me.
No. I think it's better if I stay out of this.
Yes, Kendall. I guess I have to face it. I think it's better if I stay out of your life, too. Permanently.
Margaret.
Yes, Kendall. I love you very much, but you'll never break away from your father. As he told me, he's done too good a job.
Well, you talk as if Father were deliberately
You
trying
don't see it. You'll never see it. Goodbye, Kendall.
No, Margaret, wait. Wait!
Come in, Margaret, my dear. It's cozy in here.
Why did you make me tell Jim to meet us here?
It's an ideal place, my dear. Who would ever think of looking for an escaped murderer in the Castle Chess Club?
Are you going to help him get away?
Question is premature, my dear. This reunion between beautiful sister and doomed brother appeals to my sense of the dramatic. That is why I brought you to the Castle Club tonight. I hope you realize the honor I've conferred upon you. The first woman ever to set foot in the Castle Chess Club.
That was your idea, wasn't it? You're the president of the club, and you made them put that rule into effect.
Why, yes, my dear. Now that you mention it, it was. You see, I don't believe that a chess club is any place for a woman.
That isn't the real reason. You hate women. You've hated us all ever since your wife died. And that's why you hate the son you think caused her death.
Shut up. Silence.
Shouting doesn't change anything. I'm right. That's the explanation for you and everything you've done.
You're impudent. And you shall pay for it.
I don't care. I'll do anything you want if you'll only help Jim get away.
Do you realize, Margaret, that you're asking me to break the law? Aiding an escaped criminal?
Stop it. I know all about you. How do you think I met Kendall? It was through Jim, of course. I knew that you were the leader in all the crooked business that Jim was doing. I begged him to stop, but he wouldn't.
Thank you for being so frank. I often wondered how much you knew about me.
And I know that it was your fault Jim killed Mr. Merritt.
Rather a bold knock for a man who's hiding. Open the door. Your brother will be glad to see you.
Kendall.
What do you mean by coming in here?
I thought that you should know that... Well, I followed you.
You followed me? For what reason? I specifically told you
I noticed Larry Walters following you, too, and I thought maybe there was some trouble.
Well, it was very thoughtful of you, Kendall. Very thoughtful indeed. But as you see, there's nothing wrong. Margaret and I were just having a little chat. You can go now. Did you hear me, Kendall? I said you can go.
I heard you, Father.
Kendall, I want you to stay.
You'll regret this, my dear Margaret. Go home, Kendall.
If you won't do as I ask, then I want Kendall to stay.
I hope you heard what Margaret just said, Kendall. A deliberate attempt to blackmail your father and to do something unlawful.
Well, I'm not...
It's time you knew the truth, Kendall. We've been married a whole year, and if you're ever going to become a worthwhile person, now is the time.
Margaret.
You can't stop me now. I'm going to tell him.
Kendall, You can prepare yourself for some vicious lies.
Kendall, you're going to have to be strong enough to face the truth. Your father is a blackmailer.
I don't believe it. No, Margaret,
It's true. After your mother died, when you were born, Evans Thatcher became a bitter, rotten old man. He used his position and his reputation to find out things about people, and then he blackmailed them.
Ridiculous.
But Margaret, Father didn't need money.
He liked to hurt people, to see them squirm. He wanted to hurt the world because he'd been hurt.
Kendall, she hates me so much she's trying to poison your mind against me. She hasn't one iota of proof.
You covered your tracks well, didn't you? You had my brother Jim do all the dirty work for you. Didn't you ever wonder, Kendall, what business affairs your father and Jim could possibly have had together?
Well, it did seem kind of peculiar.
Kendall, go home. Let me handle this. I'll explain everything to you in the morning. My word of honor.
But, Father...
You have my word. Go home.
Hello, everybody. Well, this is a nice little family gathering.
Jim.
Stay where you are, Jim. Stay right where you are, or this gun might go off. Go on, Kendall. Get out.
No, I'm staying. I want to hear all of this.
Yeah, tell your son how you double-crossed me with Merritt.
Shut up.
Why? What have I got to lose? If you don't kill me, the cops will. But why don't you tell your son how you made me pack a gun when I went to Merritt's and how you knew he'd have one, too?
So it's true. Margaret wasn't lying. You are an evil old man.
One more step, Jimmy, you'll be dead.
Jim, wait. Mr. Thatcher will help you to get away.
Too late now, sis. But he could have helped me. He folded. And I kept my mouth shut in court for him.
Now we'll have the truth. You didn't accuse me because no one would have believed you. I was too careful.
What's the difference? First I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to die happy. Now get out of my way, Kendall.
Stand back, Kendall. He's not going to hurt me. I'm going to kill him. I won't be blamed for it. He's an escaped convict.
I'll tell. I swear I'll tell. I'll tell the police just how it happened.
You're not going to be alive to tell anyone anything. Kendall, stand back.
You're not going to shoot, Father, or you'll have to shoot me first.
Get out of my way. Are you crazy?
No, Father. Just seeing you as you really are. I'm growing up, Father.
You idiot! These fools can ruin me. I'm going to say that Jim killed Margaret. Then we took the gun away from you, but I had to shoot him in self-defense.
All right, hold it. Everybody reach.
Oh, thank heavens you come, Walters. You can arrest this convict.
And you, Mr. Thatcher. Now I know why you dislike detectives. Drop that gun. Come along, Jim.
Give me that gun, Thatcher. Give it to me, all right.
Break it up. Break it up, you two.
All right. Here, take this.
Jim, darling.
It's all right, sis. It's better this way.
You all right, Jim?
I'm okay. I'll be dead a little quicker than you thought. And, well, thanks for getting Thatcher for me.
I didn't get him for anybody. He took a shot at Margaret.
Thanks anyway. Now Margaret will be all right. Won't you, sis?
You mean we'll be all right, Jim? Kendall and me.
Yes, that's right, Jim. Don't you worry about Margaret. We'll be really together now.
From shadows and stillness, mystery weaves a spell of strangest fascination, charging the mind with doubts and fears. For mystery is a strange companion, a living memory in the haunting hour.